and welcome to the Next Canon podcast. My name is Danny Ray, and on this podcast, we are working to recreate, reimagine the theater canon to make it more like what we want it to be. I'm so excited today because we have Shermona Mitchell. Say hi.
Hi.
Shermona Mitchell uses she, they pronouns. They're an actor, director, adaptor, artistic associate for the Seattle Public Theater and is Sound Theater Company's current board president. Whoop, whoop. She also loves mango cheesecake and listening to the Read podcast. And fun fact, she just finished watching all 11 seasons of Doctor Who in February, and I've watched all of them too, so we love it.
Hey,
Hey,
love that. Thank
yeah,
you.
how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing okay. I'm awake, which is always half the battle with me. So yeah, it's a good day. It's a good day.
Yeah, the sun is shining, the tank is clean, and we are. No, I'm just kidding. I love Finding Nemo.
Exactly.
That's the cool. I quote it all the time. I came up to my parents like because I'm staying at my parents' house right now, and I went upstairs one day at like noon, and they don't get it. I have to be like alone for the first few hours of the day, and I was like, today's the day, the sun is shining, the tank is clean, and we are getting out. The tank is clean. The tank is clean at noon. They were both silent. And then they laughed at me because that's my personality. But they were like quiet up there when I was being loud and big. It was so funny.
I
They were like,
love
what's
that
that?
for you.
Me too. They were
Right?
like, what are
Don't worry
you
about
doing?
what's happening up here. It's happening.
It's happening.
It's
We're
happening.
just here.
No, I feel
Um,
that.
yeah. So we'll tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, I mean, what is there to say? I'm a Capricorn Aquarius with a Scorpio moon, Taurus rising. I've been in Seattle for about 20 years now. I graduated from Cornish College of the Arts in theater, and then took a year off to process all the information that they were like, here's all the things you should know. Good luck. I'm like, I hope I don't let you down. Um, and then yeah, from there just kind of jumped into the Seattle waters and started working. Have been blessed to continuously be working and to work with amazing people, amazing theaters, learn some lessons, pass some lessons on. And at this point, working to how do we recreate a new version of American theater? And how do we specifically do that in Seattle? And
Mhm.
what is going to work for us in a way that may not work for Chicago, that may not work for LA, that may not work for New York? So, and then also, how do I make myself a better artist? It's one thing to help everybody, but if I'm not doing the work for myself, what are you doing? What are
Right.
you doing? So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. Let's see. I've just come off of doing a show with Theater Simple. We did they us Theater Simple was included in a residency at Indiana University, Pennsylvania, and we flew down there. They drove down there. Andrew Litsky, Lisa Holland, and we did a residency with 4 students from IUP, a show called Caravan Chronicles, and it's just different. It's a show about how we have different connections, how sometimes you have blood of family, uh, family of blood, you have family of choice and family of circumstance. So just doing that, it's an outdoor site specific show, and it was really great. We did that last week, and so quite lovely. Quite lovely to meet new artists that are coming up, and then also to incorporate the type of style that Theater Simple does, and kind of gift it. It's like, here, have a little present, make some art. So yeah, it was great, and it's also great to do an outdoor show with audiences where you're like, wow, haven't done this in a while. Having to use that outdoor diaphragm, you're like, oh, this is why I do the indoor stuff. But it was really great. It was really great.
Yeah, that
So yeah,
sounds like super fun.
it really was. We had a 31-foot trailer, kind of airstream that was brought in. It was really great. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, and now you're caught up. Ba-da-ba.
Perfect. Ba-da-ba. I'm caught up. So like I said to you a little bit before, I had seen you around during my time at Cornish, just like sort of doing like new play festivals, like really cool. You were directing a bunch of stuff like throughout the years. I sort of heard your name, so I was really excited to have you on the podcast. And like yeah, I'm just very stoked. And so to sort of get into our topic today, where am I fangirling? What's
Mhm.
happening?
I don't
Uh,
know. I too
I
am
don't know either.
fangirling. It's happening. It's
Um,
happening. We're here in this
it's
moment
happening.
together.
Here we are. I love it. So to sort of jump into like the topic today, which is my favorite, what does the canon mean to you, like as a word or just in general?
First off, I think Pachelbel's canon. Then I think about the canon, uh, in the War of 1812. I grew up military, so I think of cannon and tanks going off in the background. But what it applies to theater, it means, quite honestly, and this is going to hurt some people's feelings, but here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go, right? Uh, but yeah, I heard a quote once that spoke to the fact that um, a lot of the things that we have as art right now and the things that we hold up as classics and things that we are very like ride or die for when it comes to art, it's really just a bunch of old white men making work and then other old white men being like, bro, genius. So no one else was ever taken into consideration about like, is it genius? Would we say that? Would we say that, Charles? I mean, cool, cool, cool.
Charles.
Um, Look, William Shakespeare. Some of it's great. Some of it happened.
Some of it was there.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's everybody's work, right? I could take a look at my canon of work that I've done as an artist, and yeah, some of it's great, some of it's trash, and some of it you're like, I actually did something right there. So that's really kind of what the canon is to me. I also think there's the academic form of canon. I was lucky enough to go to, in high school, a school where we were not allowed to read dead white men. So what that
Mm.
meant was, if you were dead, if you were white, if you were a man, we didn't read you because at some point we were going to in your lifetime. So when I got to Cornish, I had never really read Shakespeare in the way that like most folks have read Shakespeare.
Yeah, because
And I
it's like an
remember
English
Kathleen,
requirement.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so for us, it wasn't. We had Nikki Giovanni. We're like, okay, cool,
Yes.
cool, cool. Um, Alice Walker. So it was really just one of those things where it was like I was catching up on the fly. I also didn't know anything about theater, so like all of it was coming at me hard and heavy, and I was like, oh, um, that's gonna be a great look later
We
on.
love
But yeah,
it.
so just coming to it from an academic standpoint, having to learn the canon in such a heavy way, I think I was exposed to a lot of it at the same time. And then I really just had this perspective of like, this is not good. I don't like this. Why do I need to read this? Six characters in search of a who for what? Don't all be like this. I read some play and I read it backwards. It was retrospective and I was bored with how it was going forward. So I was like, let me just get to the chase and read it backwards. And it made more sense to me backwards. And I remember my teacher just, what have I done? You've ruined the whole thing. You can't read a play that way. I'm like, but do I know the information? Yeah. So what does it matter which direction I read it in? Um, so yeah, that's standard for me. I
I love that.
understand the assignment, but I'm gonna do it my own way.
Yes.
So yeah,
Did you read it backwards by like chapter or by like page? I'm so intrigued.
by page.
Love that.
By page.
What?
Like I just kind of like scanned it. I was like, okay, cool, 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 cool. And then you can put the chunks together. You're like, okay, this scene is there, and you're like, okay, cool,
Yeah.
got it. I understand what's happening
It
here.
gives
So
it
yeah,
like a more mystery too, like when you're going backwards, like how did we get here? And I guess since the play's
yeah,
retrospective, like it wouldn't necessarily, but it gives it that sort of like you get to discover how we got here, which is always kind of fun.
yeah. And I think that's also the development in my learning of like learning the retrospective, learning how to dissect it as an artist in a way that you're like, okay, you have to wait for this to happen, for this to happen, for this to happen. By that point, my brain was like, look, I just need you to tell the story. You're taking too long. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's really cool. Honestly kind of jealous that your school didn't let you read any old white men. That's
You
amazing.
know, you too can take up this mission. Anyone can take up
You
this
really
mission.
can, but you
Just
don't think
stop.
about it as a high schooler unless someone says we're not going to do
Right.
that. Iconic.
Yeah. And you're just like, look, I went to a school that their motto was preparing women for leadership. And so that was one of the ways that they prepared us.
You said, and I'm prepared. Give me that leadership. I love it.
Leadership, right. Like, ah. So yeah.
Leadership is funny because you don't really know what you're doing, but you're really good at being like, yes, I know what I'm doing. And then you get a sense of what to actually do. You know?
No, yes, and at the same time, also just walking into a room and saying, "Hey, friend, I understand that everyone thinks that I'm the adult in the room, but we're all adults in the room, and we all come with different experiences, different thought processes, and I don't know what I don't know, and there's a reason that we are all in this room together to solve this problem." So yeah, Nicole
Yes.
Brewer says, "Individually know a little, together we know a lot." And so that thought of thinking is very helpful in moments when I feel imposter syndrome, or I feel like my leadership style is weird and quirky, or when you're just like, you know what, today I don't want to be a leader. Some days you just are. Some just days you're like, okay, this is what I'm walking into the room with, and that's what it has to be. So yeah.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. So within this canon that you got like smashed onto you in college, is there a show that's got to go?
I'm sure everyone says there's so many because
Yeah,
there are so many.
there are so many, which is
Uh,
like why I'm doing this to make a library of those plays that we don't need to do anymore.
we could all just really say goodbye to so many things, but for me particularly, I'm just going to break up with the Crucible. I really am. I'm going to break up with it. I understand why a lot of people feel that it's important, and the thoughts and the themes that it brings to the table, um, and that's great. However, I'm going to talk about it from a black perspective and a black female perspective, because in that story, no one's ever talking about that perspective. And it, it is the linchpin of the whole thing. It is when they're in the room and Tituba gets accused of witchcraft, and they're like, "Who is that?" And she's like, "I don't want to have to choose anybody. Please don't make me choose it." Fine, fine, fine. I'll play your game. Here, it's so and so. Um, but yeah, so for me, the Crucible, I think it's very interesting. I think that show, it really is based around a white Christian male perspective. You know, when we talk about John Proctor and why he doesn't sign the papers, it's his name. Okay, so everybody else's name has been dug through the dirt in this book, show, whatever. Um, but all of a sudden, you, sir, you white sir Christian, get to keep your name because your name's more important than everybody else who's died. I think not, sir. There's that. There's also the thought. I'm not a fan of women betraying other women. I'm not a fan of betrayal in general, which Crucible totally just a betrayal.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not a fan of women betraying other women. And this particular story it's everywhere. Abigail is just she was wild. She's wild. She's like, I want what I want, and if you're gonna stand in my way, I'll take you down. And it's very Mean Girls. And there's a moment where you can be like, yes, yes, Abigail, yes, you world domination. But then you also have to think about it, and you're like, oh, poor Mary Warren out here looking out in the court against the girls, and you're like, oh, you can do it, Mary Warren. You're not going to, but you can. So there's that. I think and if we take a look, there's this thought of pointing at people and accusing people in order to save your own ass. And I really just, I'm not down with that in general. I think there's something about authenticity. And if you can be authentic in a moment, it's bravery, it's strength, it's courage. But really, what you're doing is you're giving other people permission to be authentic to themselves after that. And so just to watch all these people, and yes, we could say John Proctor, yay, you saved your name. In that moment, you finally decided authenticity. But I mean, too little, too late. How many people had to die? How many girls had to be like upset? I mean, poor Tituba just in jail, depending on what version of the story you want to tell. So yeah, I could do without that. Arthur Miller also. I just, the estate has a way of silencing women's voices when in fact the show is about silencing women voices. So you're just kind of like, but do you understand? Okay, you don't. That's fine. Whatever. So for me, yeah, I want to take that down. It's a story for people to be like, oh, this is what happens when mob mentality gets in the way, and this is a cautionary tale. Yeah, we know it's a cautionary tale, but can't can't we just really just be better and do better and then learn the lesson and then not have to need the show? Is that a thing? Am I hoping too big? Sometimes I have big dreams, and maybe that's one of them.
Could we not find a new way to tell the show where this doesn't have to happen? Where all of the plot is avoided? Like,
Well, well. I mean, yeah, there's just so much that you're like, why do we need this? Why do we have to keep going through the same cycle? And I mean, like, and that's the point of the Crucible, right? To talk about how the Salem witch trials and the McCarthy trials are the same thing. And it's like, okay, so if he can write a story based on something else that happens, that means it's a cycle. Break the cycle, because then you're just passing on generational curses, you know.
exactly.
So let's just be done. Let's learn the lesson and move on, because everything else is just wasting my time. You're also wasting my money. And yeah, I mean, really, do we have to also put one black person in to be the sacrifice? That's what that show does. And yes, you can color consciously cast that show. Sure, sure. Um, but for me, no matter how you look at it, it's gonna get tricky, and you're going to make a statement that I think a lot of people aren't clear about the statements that they're making.
Hmm.
Because what happens when you replace John Proctor with a person of color? Then you've got this whole martyr situation of like, oh, in this town of, it could be whatever, but someone has to be different. Like the Tituba character always has to be a different person, different culture than the community that they're in. So
Yeah,
there is this otherness that you're just like, you're going to back yourself into a corner. And I know people think that they're being smart. I know that they think that they're thinking outside the box, and it's like, what you're doing is inflicting harm. And sometimes being smart and inflicting harm, it's don't do it. Don't think
yeah.
that you're smart. Don't inflict harm. Just skip it. So yeah.
Just
um
skip it. I
just
also think the like repetition of doing the show, like what you were saying, it can perpetuate the problem that we're currently having, which is it slows down society because we're not doing what you're saying, where if we learn and move on and move forward, it's just keeping people back at the learning phase over and over and over again, and then they feel attacked because they keep seeing the same thing again and again. It's like, oh, I already learned that I'm not supposed to do this or that or this or that. It's like, let's just move forward. Let's, if you already learned it, let's,
right,
like you said, let's pull this one, no thank you, put it over there, and
right.
then keep going forward.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
It would be.
Wouldn't that be lovely?
It is one of those dreams, like you were saying, that I have, which is why this podcast exists.
Proud of you,
But
though. Really awesome. I
I,
meant that real talk.
oh, thank you. It's just so important, and I just wanted to make a space for everyone to talk about it, and because everyone can talk about it, and we all have different shows that have got to go, and like for different
Hmm.
reasons, and so
Yeah,
it's like everyone can have different feelings on everything. So why not listen to all of
exactly.
these things? I don't know. We could
Novel.
We could
Novel
listen.
ideas you're out here with.
Oh my
I don't
god.
understand. I don't understand this word you're saying. Latane,
Listen.
Licine,
Listen.
list,
Listen.
listen, listen, listen. I got it.
Listen.
I totally
Mm.
have it now. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So as we work towards building the new canon and we listen
Yes.
as we look
Yeah.
towards that,
Listen. Yeah.
what's a show that
Listen towards.
everyone should know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, look, so from going from rumors, the Crucible has rumors, it has death, it has this thought of like who's mad, who's crazy, who's pretending, who's not pretending, someone else having control over your life, the silence in a female voices, and once again being authentic to yourself. James Imes has a new show out with the Wilma, where he's co-artistic director, out of Philadelphia, and it's called Fat Ham, and it is a Black queer retelling of Hamlet. And so it's up for the people who want to view it. If you go to the wilmatheater.org, it's up there. You can purchase tickets. They also have industry tickets and student tickets if that's a thing that you need. But yes, it's there, and it's a delightful script. It's one of those where you're like, ah, how do we make Shakespeare accessible? And just talking about like what academia does to writers and to Shakespeare. As a Black actor, complete honestly, there's a part of me that's like, Shakespeare, yes, I'm trained to do it, and yet inside my body we're all like, ah!
Yeah.
When you're like duck treading water, you're like, Shakespeare, fine, please don't make me do it. And yet there's something about it that in the teaching of it, in the presentation of it, we've made this gap, as an industry, about who gets to be in Shakespeare, who gets to tell the stories of Shakespeare, how they're told, the costumes that they bring to it, the dialect. Can you respect the meter? Can't you? Like, you're not doing it correctly. And it's like, here's the thing though. In the same way that an apple tree produces apples, I am a storyteller and I will always tell stories. So it is one of those things where you don't get to tell me how to tell a story. I either know how to do this or I don't, meter or no meter. So I feel like James has done that. I like calling him James, it makes us seem friendly. But yeah, James has done that. It is that in North Carolina, and it is our Hamlet. His name is Juicy, and his mother has just married, of course. For all intents and purposes, his uncle, and they did a courthouse wedding, and they're doing the reception in the backyard of North Carolina, and it's great. And there's barbecue, and there's cornbread, there's greens, and it is part of the culture that I recognize. There's something that I see in myself there that I'm like, ah, this is my gateway. You were speaking in a meter that I understand as a person of color. My language already has a meter to it. It already has a rhythm to it. So I don't need your extra Shakespeare. Thank you so much for the offering, but no, thank you. I'm good. So it's really just yeah. I said no to Shakespeare.
You
I said
said ba
no,
ba ba
thank
ba.
you.
No, thank you.
Ba 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 ba. Really lovely and refreshing to hear the words, to see it, um, in the fact that like there's a softness about Black men that James has written about in a way that I don't recall seeing on stage before, um, and what's really great about it is it was filmed during the COVIDs, so in the 2020, and a lot of it's just like one continuous shot, and you're like, y'all out here really doing a show. It's real cute. Um, and so to see this softness, and especially when we haven't seen theater for a while, but to see it especially around Black men, and this expectation of like, you will always be put together, you will always be hard, you will always be whatever this expectation or whatever biases, stereotypes people feel like you should be, and to make space for that and to allow people to see it because I see it, you know um, so other people should see it. What I do enjoy, though, one of the many things that I enjoy that James has done is he's written a story and he doesn't care about the white people. And I know that sounds really kind of like harsh for some people, like, why don't they care? We care. We just don't care, you know?
Yeah,
um, but sometimes we just don't care.
exactly.
But he's not writing a story to catch you up. He's not teaching you about Black culture in this moment. He's letting Black culture happen, and it is your responsibility as an audience member to keep up. And that's what I'm really enjoying right now about a lot of just global majority writers and playwrights. Everybody's really kind of relinquishing this thought of centering whiteness in the telling of their stories. And I'm really excited to see that when theater comes back, and especially in Seattle. And I'm excited to for audiences to really get a hold of that, of like, wait, but you didn't explain this. I understand. I understand. Um, I think about Fade at Seattle Public. There was a section where it was in Spanish, you know, and someone spoke to the director, being like, "Well, why didn't you translate this?" It's like, why don't you know Spanish? In Sound Theater's Peeling, there's a section where one of the actors who speaks the ASL, she gives her whole monologue in ASL, and it's not translated. And it's, well, why didn't you translate it? Why don't you know ASL? You know, so it's really reminding people of their privilege, and it's reminding people that sometimes you have to do the work to be in the room. And if you haven't done that work, then yes, you will be behind, and that is unfortunate in that moment, but it's also your responsibility as an audience member to do the work afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, when you also think about it, that's the way kids learn. It's like there's
Mhm.
no one goes around saying, "Oh, this happens when we go here and do this, and this is what happens in our family." You know, it's like you just live it, you experience it. It might be new, it might be different, you might be confused, but you learn from it, and you next time are not confused, or next time you step forward in your understanding. It's just like
Hmm.
like being a kid in a new situation, which a lot of people, white people, want to be like, well, that didn't make sense to me and I didn't like it. And it's like,
Great.
okay,
Cool. Cool.
sure. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to understand it if it's not your situation, but you can learn, appreciate, listen, watch, you know,
You
experience
can
a
be a
thing that
witness
you don't know.
too.
Witness too. Exactly. It's like, this is how did we forget how to learn like a kid? You know what I mean? We're all always in.
Ooh.
I think
Yeah. Yeah.
Cornish made me think more about that, obviously, because we always talked about the child's mind and how to like discover and stuff like that. But we we act like we are adults and understand things, but we're everyone I know my age is like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I, here's a fun fact. Doesn't matter what age you are, you're still being like, I don't understand the assignment, can somebody explain it to me? And that's the thing, you know, I've learned enough about myself to say, great, I understand that you said that three different ways. Is there a fourth? Is that it's okay if not, I will do what I can from what I was given, and I will figure it out for myself. But I mean, yeah, you know, yeah, yeah.
I love
Sorry,
that
I had to
too.
stop there because I was going
No,
to go
you're
on a roller
good.
coaster, and I was like, no.
We love a roller coaster. I also love that because like when you're challenged to explain it that fourth way, it gives you a new perspective on it as well. Like I had roommates in college who we did not have like the same understanding of how to do little things, or like we had our own ways of doing certain things, and I ask why. I'm like, why did you do that? But I do it like that with my face, and everyone, I look angry, but I'm fully not. I'm literally the least angry about it. I'm just so confused. I'm like, why did you do that? And I look like a jerk, and it's just like it
Right.
just happens. And then I had to like be like, I'm so sorry, my face does not say how I feel in that situation at all. And so I'm just curious why you're doing it that way, because I want to learn why you cook your
Right.
meat that way. Like, why didn't you defrost it
Right.
first? Like, what's going on? You're cooking ground beef from the outside in. I don't know if that's how you're. I'm
I
confused.
mean, I that is new to me. I would love to hear your thought process on that. Yeah, you know,
Exactly.
like,
But I didn't say it like that. I said,
but
what are
my
you
face is
doing? With my eyebrows
see,
furrowed like a jerk.
and my face does the same thing. I'm like, why would you do that?
Exactly.
And they actually mean like, why would you do that?
That's
But like, And my face is just like, we've paid all this money for our face to say exactly what we're thinking. And then sometimes, in the same way that, like words, homophones, your face betrays you in a I guess, a homophone kind of facial expression, when you're like, it says one thing, but it's actually meaning another. And I know that you can't tell that right now because of context. And I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It gives you it makes you look at it in as many new ways as possible, which I think is so cool, and like gives you a new way to communicate with all different sorts and types of people. What?
Yeah, I mean, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's lovely. Thank you for that thought.
I'm here for it, That's why I put my mic in front of myself. I said, I have words.
Hey,
Hey.
we love to see it.
Do you have any shows that you know of that are happening right now that you're like really stoked for, that everyone should like watch on the interwebs or something? Or go
Sure.
outside?
I know that Reggie Andre Jackson and Valerie Curtis Newton have been working on something at ACT. I'm really excited to see what they have done. I know that Young Hot Thespians has been. I'm like, y'all are coming into the city hard, and y'all have plans, and I am just so absolutely thrilled and enamored and fangirling, and I'm just like, yes, give it to us, give us more. So any of their work I'm totally here for. Who else? I mean, like, here's the thing, everybody's doing wonderful work right now, right? And I know that Kathy Shea just did a 17-minute show with Matcha. I haven't had an opportunity to see that yet, but I want to watch the video because everyone's like, it was amazing. And I'm like, I want to have the feels like all the other humans are having the feels. So that's exciting. Let's see, anything else? I'm sure there are. It's the moment that like we leave and it'll be like 85 shows, 85 shows.
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, I mean, those are the ones that are like clearly at the top of my list that my brain can activate in this moment, um, and can see and think of. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I feel like everybody's really being quite thoughtful and also intentional about the work that they're putting out right now. It's hard. It's hard producing in the circumstances that we're in. And so, one, I admire everybody who's doing it. I did a lot of shows in the beginning of the Panorama, Panasonic, Pantene Pro V, Panini, whatever
Ponder
you want to call it.
replay.
Ponderosa. Yes, Ponder Replay. Yes. Um, but yes, and so I understand that work is hard. It is hard, it is exhausting. There's a moment where we all like reach our threshold of technology where you're like, and this water just got too deep for me. And you're watching it's kind of like a swimming pool. That's the imagery I see in my head. But you're like, okay, cool, cool, cool. It's that moment when you're walking, and all of a sudden you're like, if I take another step, I slip under. And you're just like, okay, great. And all your other friends are like in the 6 foot water, and you're like, hi,
Help.
remember me when you're having fun? No? Okay. Cool.
Send
I'll
help.
hang out. Right. I'll hang out in the 4 foot water where I feel like a giant. There's knowledge and what you don't know. And that's what I find humbling about um, making art and making theater online right now. It humbles you in a way that you're like, oh. And it lets you say, I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Is there someone in this room that can do this? Do we know people who can do this? Is this even possible? And it makes you think about workarounds. And it's like doing really hard math in a way that you're like, but we all signed up for art. We don't do math. So yeah, I just respect everybody who's making art right now, and all the people and the teachers who are making it happen, because it's hard and people are still doing it. So power to the people.
Power to the people. What's something in a theater piece that just when you see it, it makes you like have all of the like lifting feelings, or like something that you just love about theater?
Uh, I mean, I love authenticity. And I know that sounds basic because, right, isn't that what theater's supposed to be? Yes, and then there's moment, I believe we have artistic shows, we have technical shows, and then sometimes you get the Venn diagram where it works together, and that's that sweet spot that I'm always looking for. I'm like, Are you doing both? Great. Um, but for me, I think authenticity. I think the last time I really had an opportunity where it just like hit me. It was at the rep, their public works presentation, and it. Oh gosh, what show was it? As you like it? Maybe, maybe I don't know. Look, this Pandarosa has roasted my brain, and
That's so
so
relatable.
I'm like, I see flashes of things. I'm like, what year was that? What show was that? Who? Any? No, no one. Okay, great. But
Yes.
anyway, it was the point where Nako was in it, and V was in it, and Christian Quinto, Shanice, like everybody was in it. But it was the moment where Orlando goes into the village and he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go steal some stuff and it's gonna be okay." And then he goes into the village, and like Timothy Pagay has just directed the shit out of this show, and the village is lovely, and everyone's there, and Shanice is singing, and her voice is rich, and you're there, and they see him coming into the village to sneak in, and they say, "You don't have to steal from us. You can just have it." Oh God, and it's happening now. And it was just genuine kindness. And I think that was the thing for me that was just like really like, oh, I think it has been so long since I have seen actual authentic kindness that it shook me, and it still shakes me in that way of like, y'all, we ain't living right. We're not living right if if seeing acts of kindness on stage, and I can't recall another time of seeing it in real life or on stage. That's too long. We're not living right. So that just it blew me away. It still blows me away. I think about that moment all the time, and especially moments of joy. Right now, especially with global majority members in theater, we're asked to do some horrific things. Tell us the worst thing about your culture. Tell us the worst thing about your culture, but also make it cute and appealing to white people. But I really need you to do all the feels while we do this fun show over here. And you're like, what? Um, so seeing that joy and having that joy and experiencing it, that is what I'm enjoying in theater, and what I would like to see more of. I'd love to see more opportunities for global majority members to really just be happy, just tell a story about our life without having to center the whiteness, without having to explain it to whiteness, and to just authentically be joyful.
Truly.
That's what I'm
That's
here
like,
for.
yeah, I relate to that. And like anything that brings me joy, like I will just feel it as hard as I can. Like I read like the same books from my childhood, like pretty much every 2 years. Like I'll read the things that like they were very much girl power type of books and I adored them. And they're based in like a medieval fairy tale land, obviously. But they
Ooh.
are very like this girl is going to be a knight and that's all she's going to do. But she has to hide her sex because they don't allow that. And then like the next series is like um this is first girl Paige who's known as a girl and she's going to make it through, and they just like these boys try to get her out so hard. They like destroy her stuff, they like play mean tricks, but it's really such a joyful like series of books. And like the author is amazing, her name's Tamara Pierce. They're the best YA books that, in my opinion, because they just were like, no matter what you do, I'm going to do the thing I want to do.
Right.
However I need to get there, I'm going to do the thing I want to do. And they both have like really supportive friends and like also like really big struggles. And it is so funny. Sometimes there's just little bits that make me laugh, and it'll be like 1 in the morning and I'll be in my room and I'll just laugh. And I've read it 10 times at least. Like I've read it so much and I will still laugh, and I will laugh at things that I quoted something from one of the later books. I'm like, oh, when is this thing gonna happen? From like a reference they make in one of the later books. I just laughed. I was like, amazing. I knew it was gonna come. Like, and I will just feel it
Oh,
because I need the joy of like
yeah.
the moment. And it's like, this is so funny. I'm gonna giggle and I'm gonna giggle until I stop giggling. Like I know I could keep it to
Yeah.
like a but I really
No,
instead I'll
let it
just be like
flow through you.
I'll just like fully go
Yes.
until the end of the giggle is done. And like with this time, like you don't get enough giggles in the day because you don't see your friends as often as you
No,
used to, you know?
no. I mean, it's me and my cat, and at this point, we just look at each other and we're like, okay, cool.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. To get sort of, I don't know, to get back into what we were,
Yeah,
where we were going a minute ago. Do
yeah.
you
Where
have
are we
any
going?
personal work that you want to promote today to the audience? Because everyone should know you, obviously, which I knew, but the audience now knows as
Thank
well.
you. Um, as of right now, you know, I still have Child Finder up with Book It Repertory Theater. It is a story that I adapt, directed by Jen Hammond. It's an audio play, and that's up through Book It Repertory Theater. Let's see, is anything else up? Not that I can recall. I mean, here's the thing: when the panini started, I was all like, I must continue to make art. And now that we're coming out of the tail end, I'm like, oh no, I've done this wrong. I've done this so wrong. Everybody rested. I didn't rest. Oh God, you guys, I'm doing it wrong. And like I said when reading the play, I've done it in reverse, which is my nature. And so now I'm in the resting phase before we come back out. So at this point, I'm really just enjoying watching other people's work, and just seeing the beautiful talent that is represented in Seattle. And thanks to being online, I mean, like you can see art everywhere, like National Theater. I'm like, I want to play with the big kids on the big porch with the British accents. I want to too. Call me. Call me.
Hello.
So right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it for right now. You know, that's
Awesome.
up and that's great. But yeah,
Where do
just
people
resting,
find
and
you
that
on
is a
the
rest.
interwebs?
On the interwebs.
If you use the
Look,
interwebs. Are we going into
I
dialect
have no, I don't know. That's look. I didn't know that I had. That's just my brain just switching.
now?
On the interwebs, I can be found on Facebook, but I function in the shadows. I'm all like, I see you, great. I have a lot of anxiety about things, and communication's one of them. And so I'm all like, ha, you found me. How exciting! I don't want to have to talk back to you. So
That's
I normally
sorry
leave a
for
voice
sending you a
memo.
message.
No, you're great. You're great. Great. That's why I normally leave like a voice message. I'm like, hey, thanks so much for reaching out. I love that. Great. And I just hurry up and get it done
I
with.
love that.
I'm also on the Instagram, Mona Lisa Turtle. If you know, you know. But come on over. I'm there. You can see me. People tag me and things. Maybe I'll send you a late night message, voice message, being like, hi, I was thinking about you. I'm really proud. You're surviving. You're out here. Yeah. Sometimes I leave those messages too. Because sometimes you
I
just
love
need someone
that.
rooting for you.
100%. And we don't tell each other enough that we are rooting for them. Like I was on with
Yeah.
Brandon last week, Brandon Jones Mooney of the YHT. And I
Oh,
was just
yolo,
like,
yolo.
I think you guys are awesome and I love all the work that you're doing and you're just amazing. Happy Poetry Month. Like, because they were doing poetry
Right.
every single day. I was like, I love it.
Right.
And like, you don't say that enough to your friends, you know? So
You
anytime we
don't.
can. Yeah.
That always. Someone described Seattle as an ecosystem, kind of an underwater ecosystem, and I really love that metaphor. There are amazing things to look at in Seattle, and especially within our community. And yet they're also different and they're varying. And sometimes you have to appreciate it while it's here because it'll go away. And you're like, but what happened to this thing? And you're like, you snooze, you lose.
Hmm.
So yeah, just taking the moment to enjoy and making sure that you're seeing everyone. Yeah, I think we get lost in the fact that like, oh, I have to be seen by this person. Now I have to be here and I have to do this. And just taking a minute with somebody and just be like, hey, you all right? You cool? You making it? I see you out here in these streets. You're doing it. Just keep rocking. And I used to have a friend Beethoven. He used to do that with me. You know, Jerry Manning used to do it to people. Um, he used to walk up, and I always thought that was so incredibly sweet, especially like with the few black people that were in the beginning when I first moved here. Um, for him to even know my name, how to pronounce it correctly, and why is that a limitation? You know, like, hey, I work in the city and no one pronounces my name correctly. But he was like, Shermona Mitchell, hello, how are you? I saw you in the show. Keep up the good work. And you're just like, why do you even know my name? You know? And so people have been kind to me. So I very much want to throw it back and spread that energy because, yeah, we can get bogged down in this energy industry can eat us in several different directions, but you got to lift everybody up, right?
100%. Absolutely. And my last sneaky question is really good off of that topic that you were just
Ooh,
saying. Is who would
yes,
you
yes.
like to be on this podcast? Who would you like to see? Who should I interview?
Oh, well, here's the thing. I love and think so many people are brilliant, and I try and surround myself with brilliant people. So I'm going to give you a list. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've got Jay O'Leary Woods, we've got Dimitri Woods, we've got Nicholas Bernard, we have Kyle Hartman, we have uh, Andrew Creech, we have Orlando Smith. We have Bob Williams. We have Andrea Kovic. Uh, hold on, I wrote a list. Let me make sure I hit everyone.
You wrote the
Oh my
list and it was a
goodness.
sneaky question? Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, just like when you have an opportunity and you're like, here are other people who I think should have this opportunity as well. You
Yes.
know, I didn't know it was going to be a question, but I'm just like, most of the time people are like, so are there other people you'd like to recommend? And I just like to be prepared.
I
That way
love
I don't
that.
look like, huh. But yes, the Russells. Now, when I say the Russells, you have to do them individually. And then I think you should probably come back and take them as a group. You have Faith Russell, who was Mama Russell. You have B. Russell, who is wonderfully just talented as well. And you have Sarah Russell. They are all just wonderful women in this industry and in Seattle who I believe that people just don't pay enough attention to. And I'm just here to toot their horn, ring their bell, let the people know. I'm like, they're here. You should know about them. Who else? Yeah. Oh, Christian Quinto. Duh. Um, Allison Lee Brown. We've got Trey Scott. We've got Ana Sofia Galeros. I love all of them. So yeah, that's my list that I have. Did I say everybody? Yeah.
I love
And we
that
really just
list.
yeah, they're everybody's just so smart, so brilliant. And it's not to say that I'm those are the only brilliant people. Those are the ones that I thought of um who I think would have really great things to say about the canon. So yeah, the more the merrier. And like you said, it's a dialogue about what is this canon and the perspectives and what does it mean and how is it harmful, hurtful? How do we put the humanity back into the arts industry? So yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my
Those
gosh, thank you so
those
much
are my
for coming
thoughts.
on and talking to me.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
I'm honored. Just stop it. You're amazing. And
I
um
told you I'm awkward and I get anxious and I'm like shoulders are up.
me too. It's fine.
Great,
We're all good.
great, great,
We're
great.
just gonna
We're fine.
model it out. Um,
Model it out.
I just am so grateful that you came to hang out with me today, and I'm so thankful for everyone listening. And I just want to say, go give this a like, give Shermona some love on the Instagram, and also thanks for listening. Give us a review. I don't know how the things work. Do whatever you're supposed to do on the platform that you're on. You know what to do. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.